All right, what's going to drive carriers? When you look at carriers, what drives carriers in our lives? Well, there really are just a few things. There are 4 things that drive it. You become ill. It could be a chronic illness. The #1 chronic illness in Canada that we're looking at now that drives care is arthritis. All right, it might be a short-term illness. And what I found interesting is to look at some of the insurance claims. The average age is 54 with some of the claims, and many of them result because of accidents and, amazing, some post-op surgery infections. So this is the type of thing that's happening at this point in time. Accidents is a major driver. Now these on this side can happen at any age. Of course, we used to think of carriers only in terms of aging frailties. That's not happening anymore. Of course, we know as we age and when we get especially to 85 onward, we're going to need some care. So carriers are probably inevitable over a long, long lifespan. But these are the other drivers. And of course, the one that now is worrying most people and most of the medical community and the governments is the climb in Alzheimer's. And that's very, very important when it comes to the dementias. It's the leading type of dementia and also vascular dementia or vascular dementia as the dementia category. So you can take a look. These are the drivers of care. So I want to spend a moment, though, just talking a little bit about Alzheimer's because it is such a driver and something that we have to look very carefully at around our own country. Right now, the Canadian Alzheimer's Association said that in 2011, there is a person diagnosed with a dementia, not just necessarily Alzheimer's, but with a dementia once every 5 minutes. And in the future, in 2038, which is as far as they've tracked, there will be a person diagnosed once every 2 minutes. Now look at where most of this happens, at the 85 plus range. Is this a gender-specific disease? Well, unfortunately, 63% are women, but that's one of the reasons is because we live much longer than the men. All right, and that is, look at the age that it starts happening. But this is something that I had fortunate enough to hear Dr. Prusiner, who was the 1997 Nobel Prize winner, speak about Alzheimer's, and he was talking about the types of dollars that are in the research. We're not putting much into research here. It's very unfortunate, but we are putting a lot of other kinds of things. So you can get a good example. We spend $3 billion a year in Canada on cosmetic makeups. And the Canadian Alzheimer's Society runs its whole operation on 15 million. The Canucks salary cap is 76 million a year. So you can see where some of our priorities are at this point in time. This one will become a major priority. And if it's not a major priority now, it's one that you should be at least taking into consideration when you're doing your planning into, you know, we don't always know what's going to be happening here. I think what's particularly difficult when we're talking about care, though, is the findings from a Stanford University study. It said, and I quote, 40% of Alzheimer caregivers, and it's usually spouses, will die from stress-related disorders before the loved ones for whom they're caring. Now that finding is devastating at this point in time when it comes to care. Another reason why family members should not be caregivers of their own family. The stress levels are immense. And remember, we have a huge number of family members who are also still working. So they've got a working situation. That's where that old term sandwich generation come from. As a matter of fact, that term's even out of favor now. They're saying it's more like a Rubik cube. You've got so many people within a family that are aging that any time at all there could be any side turned up. It can be a sibling, it can be a parent, could be a spouse, etc. So this is the part here. Now let's make sure you and I are real clear on how I describe your carriers. You know what? It's just because we're living long lives, it's just another span in our lives, could be at any age, that's critical, any age when we need a combination of support services. Why? So we can continue to live in our own homes in an independent manner with choice. That's all carriers are, just a span in our lives, over the long span of our lives, where we will live independently in our own homes preferably. But they can happen at any age. I'd like to spend a minute now introducing you to my family. My carrier's journey lasted 16 years. They spanned quite a scope. from my parents on your far left, from my parents, both required care. My dad from an accident and then from slight dementia that was exacerbated through the long surgeries and the rehabilitation, which we didn't expect. My mother, she had open heart surgery, and she was in her situation as an aging, frail woman. All right. Then I was married for a very short time, 1.5 years, when my new husband was diagnosed with terminal esophageal cancer. And we went through that journey, which was through an illness. And then he was an only child. I was an only child. He was an only child. When he passed away, I had his mother-in-law in my care, or my mother-in-law in my care, and she suffered from immune system chronic disorders. So this is ranged right through. Those experiences took me through nursing home situations, live-in situations, hiring live-in, shift caregivers, respite caregivers, special hospital ward caregivers, and of course, assisted living boutiques. So the whole range has happened there.